All right. It says preparing to live stream.
Yeah, it says live. It says live on YouTube on my my thing here.
YouTube just popped up. Let's see. All right. All right, we're live.
Yeah.
That's preparing to live. Oh man, I can't watch this at the same time. All right, it still says live on YouTube.
Okay.
So I guess we're live. We're live. Nicholas Vidal, the functional health detective. Welcome, brother. Thank you for being here. I'm excited to bring some of your knowledge to this side of the YouTube stream.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime you can come on this channel. And so let's start out with what's a little bit about like your background. Like, how'd you get started in functional health? And who are you? Who is Nicholas Vidal?
Yeah. So basically, years ago, I ended up getting this sort of mysterious health issue that started to crop up. Started as a skin rash. It was a little bit, and over a couple of years, it actually sort of started to engulf my whole body, and it got to a very scary point because my skin was very bad. There was a lot of acne, lots of rashes, and then on top of that, there was also a lot of gut issues like digestive upset, bloating, severe fatigue. So many things were just piled up all at once, and it's sort of like my health ended up taking a toll for the worst, and everything sort of collapsed. And it was sort of at that point that I was like, okay, I have to figure this thing out. So I ended up going through conventional medicine and different doctors and trying to get an answer to what was happening. And what I found is that all they were spending their time was they're trying to figure out a diagnosis as opposed to helping me with the actual result or figuring out what's causing this. And so it got me sort of nowhere. So it's sort of something I had to venture off on my own and start to research and figure things out. And as I did, I got into the world of holistic health and did many different therapies, colon hydrotherapy, detoxes, juice fast, anything I could get my hands on, try different supplements. I would drive hours to go to a health food store just to see new stuff that was out. And I was just on this journey and committed to figuring what was causing this out so I can solve it. And I ended up bumping into a health coach that actually educated me about the connection between the gut and my skin. And that was the first time in my life I ever even understood there was a connection between those two. And so as I went through a program with her and she helped coach me, we started to work on gut healing foods and gut healing protocol. And literally within like 3 weeks after suffering for like 5 years, my skin started to clear up. And I was like, wow, we're on to something. This thing's working. And I stuck with it for another couple of months. And literally all of the rash completely disappeared. The hives disappeared. A lot of my food sensitivities disappeared. The bloating, the gas, the fatigue, a lot of that cleared up. It literally was a complete turnaround. And it was at that point where I was like, wow, there's really something to nutrition. There's really something to supplements. There's really something to doing what I just experienced. And I want to be able to help other people with that. So my personal journey in health and fitness started about 9-10 years ago. I got certified as a personal trainer because I wanted to help other people start to get healthy. I was going through my own health journey at the same time. And then after years and years of working with people, I realized that exercise alone wasn't the key. And we needed to look a little deeper. So I got involved in like fitness nutrition and was helping to write diet plans and things of that nature. And I realized that wasn't even enough, that we had to go a little deeper because a lot of the clients had different issues, autoimmune issues, thyroid issues, other things that were going on. And these people were eating healthy. They were working out. They were following all these different diets. But for some reason, they still had some serious health complications. And that is why I went back to school, got certified as a functional medicine health coach to really understand a proven way to be able to help people. Because in functional medicine, there's an underlying blueprint and all the organs of the body are directly connected together. So if any organ has an issue, whether it's our gut or our liver or our skin, that means the entire system is affected. So in functional medicine, we're basically using different clues. Almost like if you were to, if your check engine light comes on in your car, That's like if we get symptoms, our check engine light goes on. So the first thing we should do, we go to a mechanic or a professional. They then run a diagnostic to know exactly where the problem's coming from. In functional medicine, we're doing the same thing with health histories and functional lab testing and blood work. And from there, we're able to see exactly where the issues are. And now we know what types of supplements need to be brought in, what types of foods may be causing a problem or causing more inflammation, which ones need to be changed or exchanged. We look at things like stress and sleep, hydration. So it's really looking at the person as a whole. And that was the best method that worked for me to help heal my body. That's been the best method for me helping clients. And so functional medicine is definitely a game changer.
Whoa. Yeah, that's huge, man. That's awesome. What a story. And I mean, I want to rewind a little bit and ask you, why do you think the mainstream medical community, I guess, if you will, why it seems like these things should be like, you go to the first doctor you go to should be able to do some of these things, right? But they don't. And so I'm just like, I'm kind of curious, like, what you think about, like, why isn't mainstream medical able to help us with some of these things?
It goes back to the concept, we don't know what we don't know. And so it's not, we really can't blame doctors for not, I'm very passionate about this because it's affected my own life. It's also affected my family members' lives. I've lost loved ones to misdiagnoses, to prescribing medication that was dangerous for the individual. Like my grandfather, they gave him a dose of Seroquel, shut his kidneys down after surviving 3 brain surgeries. So like this thing has really affected my life. My grandmother's been on medication with diabetes and has been on like 10, 12 medications for like the last 30 years. And in my head, it's like, it aggravates me because if we have an illness or a problem, we should have professionals that are helping to solve the problem. Someone shouldn't be suffering with something like diabetes, which is a food related illness, for 30 years. That just should not be the case. And it's very hard because it's not that they're wrong, it's just that their training they've received is literally like, well, you have this symptom, so this medication does this. And so they're only looking from a symptom perspective, and everything is segmented in conventional medicine. There's a specialist for this and there's specialists for that. And we do need specialists, but we do need training on how all of those things are connected. It's the same thing like your car. Like, yeah, you do have a tire specialist and a mechanic, but they're well trained with the entire car, or the entire system. It's not like you're going to have a specialist for tires, a specialist for door handles, a specialist for the rip in the seat. It's like, once you start doing that, you make it way more complex. And so I think that's where the biggest problem comes from, is that we're chasing symptoms and we're not getting to the root cause. So if there was more training in actual physiology, and that's what functional medicine is based on, like, how does the actual human body work? What nutrients do what organs need certain nutrients? And once you understand that blueprint, it's literally sort of a mathematical equation from there. Okay, this thing's out of place. This is obviously what needs to be brought in. So I do think we can come to a time where conventional medicine is sort of being more open to these types of approaches, because doctors have very good hearts. Like they didn't go through 8 years or more of medical school and take out all those loans and all that stuff because they want to hurt people. That wasn't the case. But what was the case is they probably received different training. Most doctors received less than a week's worth of nutrition training during that entire 8-year program, which nutrition should be the first thing, because the reason we eat food is to get nutrients into the body. And so if we understand that, we can help people a lot better. So that's sort of my personal opinion on things. It's like, we can be mad at the medical system, but it's not really something to be mad at, because they're just trained a different way. So their belief system's slightly different. And that's why it's our job as functional medicine practitioners to share the message out here. Like, hey, there's actual people in the world that are healing very serious diseases and illnesses through food, through clinical grade supplements, through regular blood tests. Like, people are having amazing results. So it is proven that this works.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I mean, it makes me think about like everything is always broken down into little parts, kind of like what you were saying. And it's like that reductionist type mindset, where even I've actually read things that showed that, like, if you have a study and you're trying to get this study funded, if it's not a reductionist study where they're breaking things down into the tiniest little parts they possibly can, then they can't really get the funding. They're not getting backed by science. They're not getting, like, they're not able to actually study these certain things that would lead to, like, the whole picture, like what you're talking about. The whole body is not all these little parts. It is little parts put together, but it's really all one whole thing, right? So it's really interesting, and it's kind of do you think there's incentives? Like, do you think there's an incentive problem with as well? Because you look at the pharmaceutical companies, um, and they're heavily tied in with mainstream medical, and so maybe that makes things a little bit more cloudy and tough too. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Like the hospitals, funding is a big issue. Profit is a big issue. The current system that we have in conventional medicine is it's sort of backwards. It's like the whole premise is someone comes in, you sort of keep them sick, but you keep them healthy enough that they're not dying. But you keep them sick long enough so, like, someone should not need to be on medication for 30 years. That we suck at chronic illness in this country. If someone gets into a car accident and they're about to lose their arm or their leg, yes, we need hospitals. You have to go to an ER. We have an amazing system for that. In regard to chronic illness, watching people suffer sucks. Like, no one should be on medication long term. Medication should be used the way it was invented originally, is, well, okay, there's this problem. We need this type of strong medicine to remedy the problem. And then voila, the issues are resolved. The person's feeling a lot better. There's no more chronic illness. But in this country, it's like, because of miseducation, and you also have, like, it's not only the pharmaceutical companies, you also have conventional meat operations. You have the food industry. You have all these conglomerates that are here to make as much profit as possible, because if that was not the case, they would not be putting toxic shit into our food and putting it on shelves in stores. That would not be the case. So they are definitely profit driven, and that is the only thing they're after. Because if they were health driven or people driven, they would not put poison into the food that we're eating. So that is a huge problem. And why I'm so passionate about it is because I've been a victim of this myself. I've went through this myself. And being raised through different processed foods and different things, like, it just made my health so bad. It took me years and years and years to battle to earn my health back. Whereas health, I feel, should be a given. Like, we should earn our health, but it should be something we live with every day. We feel every day. No one should have to suffer, especially out of ignorance. So that's something I definitely have a strong stance on.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. So, switching gears a little bit, right now, a little bit. Right now, we're we're in the middle of a pandemic. What can people do? What would be, like, if you had three top things people should be doing right now to stay healthy? What do you think?
Three top things would definitely be, at this point in time, we definitely need to maintain our health. That is the utmost. And the way we can do that is through the food that we eat. So we have a decision every day, multiple times a day. That main decision that can alter our life is the choice that we put inside our body. And so if we're eating three times a day, that's three chances you can make a good decision for yourself every single day. And so we always want to start with food, because that's what we've done for thousands and thousands of years. That's what provides nutrition. So we always want to make sure we're not eating a bunch of processed food. We want to try to stay away from inflammatory food, because that will sabotage our immune system. So things that are heavy and hard for the body to break down, most gluten and grains, even a conventional dairy that has a lot of antibiotics and hormones and things in there. That stuff is literally going to sabotage the immune system. So we definitely want to keep an eye on diet and things that are coming in. So focusing on grass-fed meats, wild-caught fish, pasture-raised poultry, organic vegetables, leafy greens, seasonal fruit. Those are all the premise of where we should start from. And actually, a way to make that easy is to just think about nature. Like, what would we find in nature? Because that's always going to give us our answer. That's been working for since before we even arrived on this planet. So if we always look at nature, what does nature provide? That is always the key to what we need to be putting into our body. Second step from there is maybe taking some extra precautions, and knowing things. So see, technically, yeah, we could get vitamin D from the sun. However, we live in the Poconos right now, and so we're in Northeast PA, Northeast United States. We do not get adequate sun exposure to produce the vitamin D that we need. So in our particular case, we would want to bring in certain supplements such as vitamin D could be great for your immune system, vitamin C. So things that would be harder to get in those quantities through food, because technically, in theory, even something like vitamin C, yeah, oranges and lemons and grapefruits. But if this thing is picked in California 4 weeks ago and it wasn't even ripe, and now it's in a truck, and now the truck has to go across the United States to PA, and then this thing sits in a grocery store for another 2 weeks, yeah, technically, in theory, it should have vitamin C, but in actuality, it probably does not. And so supplements would always be the next place to look. The third place is lifestyle. How are we handling stress? Are we getting exercise? Are we getting out into nature? Are we getting fresh air? Are we getting sun exposure? These are all things that could be very easy. And these are all things that it's the simplest things that have the biggest impact. Even something like deep breathing. Oh, well, what is breathing for 2 or 3 minutes going to do for me? Well, if you're dealing with a lot of anxiety, or you're even dealing with pain and inflammation, or you're just on edge, I guarantee if you did deep breathing for a couple of minutes, it would definitely calm things down. It would help clear your head. So it's pretty much looking at the whole holistic picture. Is like, okay, what's coming into the body? If there's any deficiencies, we need to clear those deficiencies. And then how are we handling our life? How are our relationships? How do we handle stress? Are we getting activity? Are we not getting activity? And this is a prime time, because right now, with a pandemic going on, we can see it as a negative thing, but if we flip the perspective and see it as a positive thing, it's a chance to get in tune with more of this stuff. Me personally, I've made it a rule to go for a walk for 2 hours a day. So I'm constantly outside. You get fresh air, nature. During that time, I'm listening to a podcast, or I'll listen to an audiobook. So you're killing two birds with one stone. Really just trying to monitor diet. I do quite a bit of intermittent fasting. So there's a lot of things we can be doing, and we'll feel a lot better because of it. Because when we feel good, our lives are so much better. Our relationships are going to be better. Businesses are going to be better. Everything that we do is going to be better, because when we feel like shit, we don't want to do anything. But when we feel good and energetic and clean and healthy, like we should, we can just get out into the world and enjoy life the way life is meant to be enjoyed.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, bro. That was good. So I hope everyone's paying attention to that, because you not only just gave us the key to staying alive and healthy during a pandemic, but you're also talking about high performance and living a fulfilled, happy lifestyle. And that's, what more could you ask for? So thank you. Those things are huge. And yeah, man, that's really powerful, because my next question was going to be about high performance, but you kind of rolled them into this almost the same type of stuff, right? Or do you have anything else that you would add for people that are like really go-getters, that are just wanting to increase their performance or their brain function?
Yeah. So this is actually very cool. So in regard to health, we have a spectrum, and when we're sick, we need to here's sickness and here's optimization, and this is our baseline. So when we're sick, or if we having a health issue right now, or having health symptoms, or you're going through something, your main focus at this point in time is to clear deficiency. You need to clear deficiency to at least get back to baseline before looking at optimization. Once you're cleared deficiency and you're back at baseline, now you can start looking at optimization. And there's many things we can do for optimization. It's basically taking little different hacks to give us that upper edge. So when I was sick, I probably wasn't able to do more of the stuff that I am today. But what I can say is going from sick to deficiency to then from baseline to optimization is so fun and exciting because there's so many things we could uncover. So there's simple hacks we can do for peak performance. One of the main easiest hacks we can ever do is intermittent fasting or fasting as a whole. The reason is because it allows the body time to clean itself. So whenever there's no food coming in, the body is in a rest and digest phase. So it's constantly cleaning out toxins. It's cleaning out old tissue and debris. Even in regard to like muscles, like if we're lifting weights and stuff, a big thing with that is recovery. So imagine if we start to use more fasting and the body is literally going in and scooping out bad proteins, bad muscle fibers, things that are calcifying your joints, causing pain and mobility issues. So it's almost like a deep cleansing that we can do, and it costs no money at all. And not only that, it also helps brain performance because when there's no food coming in, digestion takes up like 80% of our energy. And so when no food's coming in, we can think more clearer, we feel more lighter, we're more energetic. And then I always say it's our digestive system's like a highway. So imagine if on the highway we were hitting rush hour 3 to 4 times a day. It's going to be backed up. There's going to be a ton of pollution, and it's going to be very horrible. No one's going to want to be there. Same thing happens in the digestive system. When we're eating 4 or 5 times a day, you're creating a traffic jam inside your digestive tract, and then you have toxins recirculating, and yeah, you're going to feel like shit. You're probably going to have skin issues. You're going to have some form of digestive complaint, acid reflux, bloating, gas, any of that stuff. So a lot of those things are actually very easy to remedy. We just need to eat less often. And we're under the premise that, oh, well, yeah, we exercise more, eat less. That's great. But if we exercise more, eat less, we'll be in a starvation mode. So it's actually better to eat less often. And this goes back to hunter-gatherer ancestors, is the men would go out on a hunt. It's not that they're going to sit down and have a giant feast and then say, hey, guys, do you want to go hunting today? That's not going to happen. They needed to go hunting because there was no food. And so maybe they go out for a day, nothing happens. They go out the next day, they throw an arrow at the deer, they miss the deer. There's still no food for the tribe. They go out day 3, they get lucky. Now they get to eat, now they get to feast. So our bodies are primarily wired for this way of living.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, it's not like they were hunting and getting something every single day back then, right? I mean, even the
Yeah.
best hunters today can't do that, and they have guns. So, so yeah, I totally hear what you're saying, and I intermittent fast until like every day. I usually don't eat until like lunchtime, like 11, 12 o'clock. Um, I read about it a long time ago, and I kind of just adopted it as a habit, and I never really analyzed it too much after that, to be honest. I like the free time it gives me in the morning too. I don't have to worry about breakfast or, you know, figuring out how to eat. So that's been great. So now my question for you is, because you were talking about getting to baseline, for somebody that doesn't know where they are on that scale at all, does it just start with a blood test, or what would someone do?
So ideally, you definitely want to be looking at a blood test if possible. If you don't have a blood test, there's definitely foundational things that are your most common deficiencies, and those are B vitamins, because primarily your main source of B vitamins is, you're going to find it in organ meat. You're also going to find a lot of B vitamins in whole grains, but whole grains are very irritating and cause a lot of inflammation. The other thing we have to keep in mind is vitamins get killed with heat. So in theory, we may hear, okay, well, brown rice has X amount of B vitamins. Yeah, it does. But once you cook it, all your vitamins are gone. Vitamins get killed by heat, minerals do not. So B vitamins are very important. They also affect our stress response. They affect blood sugar metabolism. They affect how we transport oxygen throughout the brain. They affect how the liver goes into phase 1 detox. They are one of the most essential vitamins we need to be bringing in. So if you're looking, I would not even recommend a multivitamin because most of them are trash. What I would say is a methylated B complex is at the top of the list. For most people, like we're in Northeast PA, vitamin D is also a very important one. I just got a very cool vitamin D in here from Ancient Nutrition. It's got some fermented herbs. It got vitamin K, 5,000 IU a day. That's what I'm using personally. So vitamin D is very important. Your third nutrient there is magnesium. Again, magnesium in theory, we can find a lot in nuts and seeds and chocolate. However, nuts and seeds, if they're not soaked and sprouted, have a lot of phytic acid and lectins. And so let's say it has 100 milligrams magnesium, you're lucky if you're going to absorb 10 of those milligrams because of the phytic acid. So in theory, the foods have these nutrients, but sometimes we do need to bring in a supplement to build the levels, because in a supplement like magnesium, we need to be bringing in about 400 milligrams a day. Now, if you did that through food, you're probably looking at 2 pounds of leafy greens and probably a chocolate bar a day to get close to that number. Not many of us are doing that, so it's a lot easier to just bring it in through a supplement. And then your fourth one there is digestive stuff. So depending on what your issues currently are, if you're more on the side of acid reflux and indigestion, then you would want to look for something with like betaine HCl, which is our stomach acid. So our stomach acid digests protein. So if we have this piece of steak come in and we don't have enough stomach acid, our stomach's like a balloon, and now we have all this gas, and now we get acid reflux, we get indigestion, not to mention this protein now goes into the rest of the digestive system undigested. Now we have bad bacteria, we have co-infections, we have a lot of issues that can happen. So supporting digestive system. So we always want to start with the stomach first. That's the first place food hits. So that would be betaine HCl. The next place in the digestive system is your intestines. So that would be digestive enzymes. So enzymes are like scissors. So if we eat a piece of steak, we have all these links of protein. Enzymes are like scissors that cut apart the links of the protein. So protein, fat, carbs. If someone has food sensitivities like dairy or lactose, they make specific enzymes where, okay, if you did go out and have that food, it would break that protein apart before it sort of entered your bloodstream or caused a problem. And then the third step in the digestive system is probiotics, which is definitely our fourth most foundational supplement, because it's, unless we're eating fermented food 1 to 2 times a day, we need to be bringing in probiotics. Our microbiome affects our mood. It affects our immune system. It produces B vitamins. It produces vitamin K. It regulates quite a bit of things in the body. And so by having adequate good bacteria in there, we can be way better off, because a lot of the issues people face is when we take antibiotics, and the antibiotics kill bad bacteria, but they also kill a lot of the good bacteria. So, and that's why my health was so bad, because for years and years, I would take antibiotics for my acne, antibiotics for sinus infection, and I never knew that they were damaging my gut, neither did my family. And so we never brought in probiotics immediately. And so it was multiple rounds throughout the years of antibiotics without ever looking at probiotics. And knowing what I know today, I would have definitely brought those in. So anytime you bring in antibiotics, you also want to bring in probiotics, because you want those numbers built up, because these bad bacteria can cause quite a bit of a problem. Because what they'll do is they'll feed off of processed food, they will feed off of toxins, they will feed off of sugar, all the stuff that we don't want to be coming in the body, they will literally feed off of. And because they're living off of it, they're organisms that are in your body that are living off of it, they drive your cravings up through the roof. And the problem here is when something like candida, which is a bad fungus, when it overgrows, will literally eat up these excess sugars and then produce a chemical called acetaldehyde. And acetaldehyde is almost like giving yourself an IV drip of alcohol, which we know alcohol is not the safest thing for us to be consuming. And so we can imagine how that would lead to a lot of health complications.
Yeah. Whoa. Way to answer the question. That was a great answer. I was taking some notes before, actually. So do you have for you said magnesium? Do you have a brand or a type of magnesium supplement that works really well that you know about?
Yeah,
We have the drink mix one. It's like powder. You put it in a drink. Are those
yeah,
good? Or?
yeah. So one of the best ones out there is Natural Calm. So if you see Natural Calm
Yeah.
in the container, It's like a powder. You mix it in some water. Best time to take magnesium is usually an hour before bed because it could also help you getting to better sleep. I personally use magnesium glycinate because it's more absorbable than citrate. If someone's constipated, they would want to use magnesium citrate. If constipation is not an issue, glycinate is going to build up your levels a lot faster. It's the most absorbable form. And so I use from a brand called Cal, and they have magnesium glycinate within these absorbed soft gels. And with that said, I have my own personal online dispensary that has a lot of these brands and also a lot of clinical grade supplements. So B vitamins, magnesium, all of that. So we can share a link and we can put that below the video if you wanted to.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah,
lot you can
absolutely.
get on there. Yeah, and
Yeah,
I also
we'll put that below. And is there a simple name that you can just say or no?
for brand.
Yeah, like what's the what? No, no,
Yeah.
just like the web. You said you have a website where people can buy this stuff.
Yeah, it's not a domain, so we just got to put the link below.
Okay.
And then it will be so if you do go to the link and you do go to get something, you would need to set up a personal account like with a password, and then you would come in sort of as a client account, and then from there you would receive 20% discount on any retail item in there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep,
Nice. All right. Yeah, we'll definitely put the link below then, right?
yep,
Okay. And then my other question, you were talking about vitamin B as well. And I'm a vegan. Like I don't think I could switch back to eating meat even if I wanted to at this point. It's been far too long and I get like sick to the stomach when I even look at meat. So I guess my question is I should probably be trying to get more B vitamins, right?
absolutely. So if someone's on a vegan diet, we know that there's definitely things we want to pay a little more attention to. B vitamins are going to be very, very important. The other things that are important, vitamin D important. Vitamin K is also important to try to possibly get into a supplement. Just because vitamin K will be found in leafy greens like kale and chard and stuff, but we may not get the adequate amounts that we need. So that's usually a common deficiency. Also magnesium. So the things we just mentioned, those would work very well. The other part is on a vegan diet, we're missing EPA and DHA, which come from fish oil. So if someone is on a vegan or vegetarian diet, it's not that you have to bring in fish, but what I would say is I would definitely look into an algae-based supplement, just because our body needs to use those two, EPA and DHA. So DHA is very good for brain health. EPA is good for lowering inflammation. So those are very important to come in, and they're pretty predominantly found in fish. Our body can take omega-3s like from chia seed and flax and convert it to EPA and then further DHA. But even in a healthy individual, that conversion, if you're lucky, is 3 to 10%. So it is very important to bring the omegas in that way.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, I actually wrote all this down. So I got B vitamins, magnesium citrate if you're constipated, glycinate if you want it to be more absorbable, EPA, DHA. Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Damn, I'm getting free health coaching sessions right now. This is great. So all right, so if you don't mind, maybe we could switch gears a little bit. Um,
Yep,
I know that you've told me in the past that you do yoga, right? You still do
yep.
yoga?
Absolutely. I give myself a rule of doing at least 5 to 10 minutes a day. If I could fit in a full 45 minute to an hour session, that's great. If I'm crunched on time that day, I at least do, it's called gravity yoga, and I'll do at least like 5 to 10 minutes of that at night.
What does that look like? What is gravity yoga?
So this is a very interesting concept. So in yoga, I was going to yoga and I feel that my flexibility was not as strong as it could have been. And I didn't understand because I would keep doing something like downward dog and my hamstrings would still be a little tight. And I arrived at this cool thing that came across my Facebook feed explaining this concept of gravity yoga. And it made quite a bit of sense because in normal yoga, we're never holding the poses for too long, unless we do yin yoga and we're holding a pose for 2 to 3 minutes. However, we don't, if we're only holding a pose for 30 seconds and flowing into something else, it's enough to get mobility, but it's not enough to release the muscle fascia itself. And so by using something like gravity yoga is basically using gravity to give you the stretch. So we would do a simple sort of like fold over, where we're keeping our legs straight and just hang the arms down to the floor. But instead of getting out of that in 30 seconds to a minute, we would hold that for like a full 5 minutes if we can. And believe me, once you get to 2.5 minutes, when I did it the very first time, the back of my legs was literally shaking. It felt like they were vibrating, is how much tension was still in the muscle. And I pushed through it and do some deep breathing. And once you get to minute 4 or 5, like after you're done doing those types of stretches, you literally feel instantaneously more flexible. And I've never felt that through a regular yoga class. I always feel better after yoga. But with gravity yoga, is like these short little mini sessions, but you feel so flexible and loose right after.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I definitely want to give that a try or look into that more. Because yeah, I feel the same way. You know, flexibility is not my not my forte at the moment. I could definitely use work on that. I personally practice Kundalini yoga, but I do it's more of like a meditation practice than it is like a yoga practice, in the sense that it's mostly sitting in an upright position and doing like breathing exercises. So you do like breath of fire, where you just right,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
or like the twist breaths, and you do stuff like that. It definitely helps like free up energy and maybe like your spinal fluid. I love it. It makes me feel really good every day. Um, but I was just wondering if you had any experiences with that.
Definitely incorporating breathing practices and things. A little bit of Kundalini I've tried before. I do like a lot of dynamic movement and flowing,
Mm.
because I sort of use it as my exercise workout time too. But yeah, but speaking of that, like this breathing concept, so this is amazing, and this is how yoga and breathing has helped out so much. Because we know like meditation is great, and a lot of people like we should all be doing meditation. We always hear about it, we read about it. If you're anything like me, it's very hard to turn this monkey mind off. This thing is just in there doing somersaults and clapping the cymbals together. And so what happens is if I sit there and I say, okay, well, I got to meditate, and we're taught in meditation, well, we got to try to clear the mind, don't think any thoughts. And the thought of trying not to think any thoughts is thinking. And so the mind is not shutting off. So what I found for me personally is that yoga, when you're holding a pose or you're just focusing on your breath itself by sitting there, what happens is if you focus on your breathing pattern, that alone is meditation, because you cannot think of anything else but your breathing. So technically, that is meditation because the mind is completely clear and the only thing you can think about is breathing. And that's why I like to do a lot of flowing with yoga, because some poses get so intense where you cannot do anything but try to breathe your way through the pain and through the hardship of it. And it literally clears out all of the clutter. It clears out anything that we're worrying about, clears out all the stresses. And it's something I practice personally in my life. When I'm having a bad day and things are starting to get me down, I've definitely started to incorporate more breathing, more yoga, because I know even if it's 5 or 10 minutes after that, I'm going to feel better than before I started.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. I hope that more people are experimenting with things like yoga, as you know, we're all kind of stuck at home through this pandemic and everything. Uh, you know, it's the perfect way to just, you know, you can get more flexible, more strong. You can also relieve stress at the same time. It just makes so much sense to me. I mean, what, you know, I used to separate like exercise from my yoga practice until one day I was like, why are they separate? Like, can I just put them all together? And like, even if I move right in from a yoga pose into like doing some push-ups and then back, you know, it's all just focusing on the same type on the body, really. Taking that time each day to focus on your body, I feel like it's been so beneficial for me.
Yeah, yoga has been such a So coming from a personal training background, I had gotten into bodybuilding and powerlifting and things like that, and It's great, and I love lifting because there's something about getting aggressiveness out through lifting something heavy. However, what happens is sometimes we focus too much on that, and that was my own case. Is, oh, I'm going to focus on building my body and lifting heavy and being strong, and then I would have joint injuries and shoulder injuries and tightness in my lower back, and all of these different mobility patterns would sort of show up and be like, wow, like here I am working out to try to be healthier, and I'm putting myself in more pain. I have less mobility, less flexibility, and it didn't really make sense. And in a way, I'm so glad that we have this pandemic, because I have not lifted weights in probably the last, I don't know what it is, 55 days since the gym is closed. So I had not touched weights at all. And it's forced me to use my own body weight in order to work out, which is actually much more harder. And my whole concept is like, we have no right going to try to lift a 300-pound bench press if we can't even hold our own body weight off the floor. So yoga is actually much more challenging. Yoga is actually, and because it's you're fighting against yourself. You're not fighting against weights or some outside thing. It's your own self. So maybe today you go to start and you can only hold things for 15 seconds. That's great. Tomorrow try for 20. The next day try for 25. Eventually you'll get a couple of minutes. Eventually you'll be able to do an entire flow for 30, 40 minutes. Like, we may think yoga is a soft thing, especially as guys. Believe me, my ego was shattered the very first yoga class I did, because I almost did not make it through the end of the class. Meanwhile, all these women and everything are around me, and they're just flowing through like this is just super easy. It's a piece of cake, and I'm over there like holding and shaking and sweating. So it's taken some time to get used to it, but oh man, it's such an amazing experience.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. I like paddleboard yoga too. Give that extra
That
challenge.
I've never done paddleboard yoga. I actually tried to get on a paddleboard. It's something I'm going to have to revisit. This was down in Rockaway Beach, so it wasn't on like flat lake water. It was in the ocean, so I think that's why it was pretty hard. But
Yeah.
oh man, just to stand up on that thing was a workout in and of itself.
Yeah. And I'm the type of person where like I try a lot of different stuff to figure out what I like a lot. Um, and so I've been through stages where I was lifting heavy weights every day too. And then I got to almost like the same story you just told. I started to realize like I should be able to have more control of my body, and I feel like it would be more empowering to do it that way. So then I started doing more calisthenics and pull-ups, dips, like anything that I could do like that. And then it wasn't until like this year really that I started experimenting with yoga. But I love all the body exercises that you can do with no weights, no anything. It's completely free. You can do it at a park if you're talking about doing pull-ups or calisthenic stuff. And it's really challenging, and it keeps me like engaged in the process. Like with pull-ups, it's like you can learn to do a muscle up where you go past the pull up and do a muscle up. And just trying to learn how to do that keeps me coming back for more and more and more. So it's one of those things where it's just like you got to commit to the process, and it's just fun. It's just more fun rather than, to me it was like, all right, let me just put another 20 pounds on my bench press. Like, what's the
Yeah.
payoff? It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, and then we're always going to get to a point where there's a limit strength concept. So me and my body is like, yeah, I'm going to get as strong as possible, but there's going to be an upper limit where that stops. It's not like I'm going to go grab 2,000 pounds off the floor and just hoist it over my head. That's probably physically not going to be possible. Whereas when we do body weight stuff and dynamic stuff, the possibilities are endless, because if we get to poses that become too easy, now we can elevate our body off the floor. Now we can do handstands. When that becomes too easy, now we can do handstand push-ups. Like there, and if that ever became too easy, which it probably won't because they're hard as shit to do, you could try doing those with one hand. So the possibilities are limitless in regard to working with your own body.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great point. I love that. That's awesome. That's kind of how I was thinking about it too, and it kind of changed the way that I look at it. But switching gears a little bit, we'll talk about one more thing, then we'll probably wrap it up here. But we were talking before we got on, we were talking about cold plunges. So
Yeah.
I thought that would be a fun way to just to wrap up the conversation. I like, I've done it once besides like cold showers, which I do every now and then. I should probably do them more. I'm waiting to hear what you have to say about it though. So what do you think?
Yes, it's something I recently bumped into within like the last year of learning about cold exposure, learning about cold water therapy. And it's very interesting field of research because it has such an impact on our mood and our emotions. It also has an impact on our immune system because it sort of tricks your body for a very minimal amount of time, almost like your body's dying. And so, because of that, you have all these beautiful processes that happen in the body. So our immune system gets stronger, our blood is flowing way better. And so the whole premise of the cold water exposure is when you go into cold, things are going to contract. And so when we're in cold, things are contracting. But the minute we get out and the body starts to warm up, our blood flows way better. So toxins in the bloodstream, undigested proteins in the bloodstream, they're going to be able to travel and get out of the body faster. Our immune system is going to upregulate. Our mood is going to be phenomenal because now more oxygen is flowing through the body. On top of that, the mental component of challenging ourselves to be able to push through that challenge. So the very first time I tried this, one of the easiest ways we can get involved in cold exposure is a cold shower. So I take a hot shower every day. And what I do is I put my timer on my phone on the counter. And right when I'm ready to go, I just do a 3, 2, 1. I hit the timer and I try to put it for a minute 30 now. When I first started, that wasn't the case. And I just go 1, 2, 3, and I blast the cold water and I try to stand there as long as possible. When I first did it, it was only about like 10 or 15 seconds. But then after that, it's been a lot easier. So now it's up to like a minute, minute and a half. That seems to be pretty average. But yeah, what a phenomenal experience.
So what are your tips for getting through that? So like if someone's going to do this today, what would you tell them?
So if you haven't done any cold water exposure yet, what I would say is definitely start with the shower. The shower is the easiest thing to do. So start warm, get the blood flowing, and then after that, we're going to crank the cold up. So we want to try to set a timer. Set a timer for maybe a minute because the minute's going to be a very good mark for us to get to. The problem we have that most people make the mistake in the cold is that when we're cold, we want to tighten up, right? And that's the problem because when we tighten up, what's happening is our lungs and everything's tight. And so now our breathing capacity is lowered. And so now we're going to start shaking and shivering. And that's the other thing too, there's a mental component here as well. Because when the challenge comes or something we're not used to comes, we can have the option to tense up and hold, or we can have the option to open up and embrace. And when we do that, now we're opening our diaphragm, we're opening our lungs, we're able to breathe a lot better. And so that's what I would personally do. And that was the biggest mistake I made is that I would get in the cold shower and do this. And that wasn't really helping. And then you could get to a place with your breathing where the water starts to feel warm. And once you start to feel that, you know that you've achieved what you set out to achieve because now you can hold. So the longest I've been in there is a little over 2 minutes. But the water starts to feel warm. It's very cold at first, but then it starts to get warm. And a way you can do that is there's many types of breathing. So you talked about fire breath before. Another one is a 4x4x4. So that's very effective. So it's pretty much breathing in, inhaling for 4, holding for 4, and then exhaling for 4. So it's basically we're bringing oxygen in, but what we're really doing is using carbon dioxide to get a better benefit. So carbon dioxide allows for the body to hold more oxygen. And so that's the reason for holding that type of breath. Or the other way to do it is you could do long inhalations and then like half out of the mouth. So maybe 8 seconds in, 4 seconds out. That's another way. So there's a lot of breathing techniques and variations out there. But what I would say is just select one of them, try it out, and don't think about the cold. Don't think about the water itself. Just try to focus on your breathing because if you do that, you're not really going to be able to feel the cold too much. Oh, sorry. There we are. We're still there.
Yeah. Okay. So it all comes down to like breathing
Yep.
through it. And then just to clarify, if someone's going to do this, and then the shower. So like they do the cold part of the shower. Do they go back to the hot part, or do they get out of the shower after that?
I wouldn't. I jump right out of the shower after that. At first, it feels uncomfortable, but I actually look forward to that because I know now that if I just fight through the cold and I get out, I may be like a little cold when I get out of there. However, within the next 15, 20 seconds, I feel way warmer because it's like the blood is just flowing. And I've even done that like when it was winter up here and the weather was cold outside. I literally did a cold shower, and then I have videos on Facebook like I ran outside with no shirt or anything on, like soaking wet, and like it's snow on the ground and it's freezing outside, just to try to give that extra boost. So that can replace your cup of coffee in the morning.
Yeah. Oh, I wanted to touch on that too because I recently quit coffee. So I wanted to. I mean, we don't have to talk about it this time. We can if you're open to it. I wanted to see. I saw that I read that it can cause cortisol to be released in your brain, and that was enough for me. I was like, oh, really? Why would I want that? You know?
Yeah, caffeine is a little bit tricky, because it has a twofold effect here. So too much caffeine, and this all depends person to person. If our adrenals are taxed and we're already in a state of adrenal fatigue, by bringing caffeine in, your adrenals are going to have to secrete adrenaline. When that happens, they get even more taxed, and so now we're going to enter a period of extreme fatigue. However, that's if we're going overboard with caffeine. So we don't, if you're going to include coffee, we don't want to go over a cup a day. It's better to, like I just did, some matcha green tea. So I do use caffeine. I use it strategically. I like using it in the morning fasted. The reason I use it is for brain performance. So caffeine is also a nootropic. So caffeine is going to help transport more oxygen through the blood. It's going to help dilate blood vessels. It's going to help quite a bit, and also it affects our dopamine and serotonin, so it puts us in a good mood. As long as we don't go overboard. So the upper limit would definitely be about 100 milligrams of caffeine. We don't really want to go too far overboard from there. But if we did 100 milligrams or under, we could safely do that every single day. Caffeine's a weird one because it's similar to, so there's a lot of research about in the nootropic industry about nicotine. And so I'm not saying that smoking cigarettes is healthy, but if we did low dose nicotine at 1 to maybe 2 milligram dose, that can act as a nootropic. So it helps lower the stress response in the brain. It turns on focus, turns on cognition. So at very minimal doses, it can be therapeutic. Whereas if we did 10 milligrams, 18 milligrams of nicotine, and that came through cigarettes or a patch or through some shit gum, we would probably have a headache. We would probably have nausea. We'd probably be sick. So caffeine is very similar to that. It's not the chemical itself that's bad. It's sort of how it's used is what makes the biggest difference.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, that's awesome to know. Except for it's a little too late. I already quit. Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah, that was a good way to end the show, I guess. So if you're watching, push the subscribe button below so you can get the next one. Nick Vidal, thank you so much for being here with me today. I really appreciate you taking the time to, really share all the really powerful information that you've happened to get a hold of over the years, and keep going, brother. People need this information, and they need the functional health side of things rather than always relying on a broken medical system.
Yeah, got to spread the message out there. So thank you for having me. This was a ton of fun. I look forward to doing more of these in the future, and just getting the message of the stuff that's changed my life, that's changed clients' lives, and sharing information and knowledge to get that out there so that way we can help empower you guys as well, so everyone can live a vibrant, healthy, energetic life.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's your YouTube channel called so everyone knows?
My Yeah, if you type in Nick Vidal, Functional Health Detective, you'll be brought to my YouTube channel. So I got a ton of videos on there. Talk about fasting, talk about a whole mix of things on there. There's going to be more to come as well. You could also find me on Facebook. My personal profile is Nicholas Vidal. So if you go there, I actually post quite a bit of videos and different content on Facebook itself. So those are probably the top two places to find me. And then also we'll put a link in the description for any supplements. And also I can put a link to my calendar in there as well. So if anyone would ever want to schedule a free 15-minute call, jump on the phone and discuss sort of what you're going through. If you have a health issue or complication and need some more clarity on it, we could put a link below that and I'll bring you right to my calendar. We'll do a free 15-minute call. And if anyone has any questions, you can always shoot me a comment or message on Facebook and I'll get right back to you.
Awesome. That's super valuable, brother. So yeah, just check below this video. We'll have that ready as soon as this video is done. I'll go in, put in all the links. So yeah. All right. Thank you so much for coming and thank you so much for watching. We will see you next time. Nick, you can come on anytime. This has been great.
Thank you very much.
All right. Bye, everybody.
All right, man. Peace.